So Unit 2 is called Historical Geology. So essentially it looks at everything back in time about how we should view the Earth, if the Earth should be viewed as being young, if the Earth should be viewed as being old, how the Earth has been changing over time. We look at such things as fossils and how fossils help us determine the geological time scale. We also look at how fossils are formed. We also look at how we date things in earth science, whether we date things absolutely involving numbers or relatively using different principles and techniques. The first topic deals with uniformitarianism. And uniformitarianism is a really, really important law in this course, and it rivals against another law called catastrophism. And uniformitarianism views the Earth as being old. And the law of uniformitarianism was actually proposed by a guy by the name of James Hutton. And essentially he says two things. One thing that he says is that the present is the key to the past. So if you were looking at trying to understand how things took place in the geologic past, well, naturally, you don't have a time machine, so you can't go back in time and watch how things occurred. But what you can do is study present-day things to better help you understand how things occurred in the past. It's no secret that the same processes that operate on Earth today also operated on Earth in the distant geologic past, and actually will continue to occur again in the future. For example, if we look at the law of uniformitarianism and you consider things like the Grand Canyon, the obvious thing is, to try to understand how the Grand Canyon occurred. How cool would it be to go back in time to actually watch it occur? We do know that the Grand Canyon was formed by an ancient river system. What we could potentially do is go somewhere on Earth right now, for example, like the Mississippi River in the United States, and we could study that river system and try to get an idea of how it's working in the present day to better understand how an ancient river system in the past helped to create the Grand Canyon. Uniformitarianism, since it says that things that happened in the past are happening now and will continue to occur in the future, when someone poses the question, will a species go into extinction in the future? The answer is yes. If we look at things like the trilobites went into extinction 248 million years ago when the great supercontinent called Pangaea broke apart. The dinosaurs and other reptiles went extinct 65 million years ago when the Earth is believed to have gotten struck by a meteorite. So when we consider things like questions like, will humans eventually go into extinction, we can actually say, yes, we know they certainly will, and how we know that is the law of uniformitarianism. So the principle of uniformitarianism, if you look within that, you'll see the word uniform, and uniform means same processes. So the natural geologic processes that have been occurring over time are going to continue for a very, very long time. And so anybody who believes in uniformitarianism, like James Hutton, would believe that the Earth changes very gradually and as a result is very, very old. The opposite to uniformitarianism would be catastrophism. And people who believe in catastrophism are called catastrophists. And catastrophists thought that Earth's physical features, so things like mountains and canyons and basically any landform, formed by catastrophes, which are really, really sudden, spectacular events. We also think that catastrophes don't really have any causes, and, well, at least the causes are unknowable, and they can't really be explained by nature. Since these events would have to be extremely large, the only way they could be explained is by supernatural power. So This principle of catastrophism has been rejected by a lot of people, mostly because a lot of people don't really believe in supernatural powers. And but we also need to be careful about this because there are many good reasons to suggest that catastrophism may have some ability to account for certain events. So, for example, mass extinctions, such as the one that removed the dinosaurs, actually do fit certain catastrophic models. The only thing that I'd like to point out about catastrophism is things that maybe in the past you thought were catastrophes wouldn't really qualify as a catastrophe now, since we know that they cannot be explained. The causes are certainly not known. So, we definitely need to rethink catastrophe. That is essentially it. I mean, the biggest points about catastrophism is that the events are sudden, the causes are not knowable, they're unexplainable. But the biggest thing is that if catastrophes did take place, and if they were caused by supernatural powers, it would suggest that things could potentially change very quickly, which would seem to suggest that the Earth is probably younger than what people who believe in uniformitarianism would say. So uniformitarianists would say that the Earth is very old and changes very slowly, whereas people who are catastrophists would say that the Earth is relatively young and changes occur at a really, really fast rate.